Oh my God.
When it comes to fishing, one of the first things that you learn is how to tie a knot. A good knot can be the difference in landing or losing the fish of your dreams. Although people's opinions on what fishing knot is best always changes, something that every angler tells you is you must wet the knot before pulling it tight.
Moisten it down a little bit more.
I will wet it again.
I'm gonna wet the knot by using my mouth, and then
In theory, wetting the knot with spit provides lubrication, which reduces the amount of friction created when pulling the knot tight. If you don't wet the knot, there will be too much friction, and the line can burn itself, causing damage and lowering your overall knot strength. Makes sense, right? But has anyone ever actually tested this out? Fishing line has come a long way over the last 20 years, let alone the last 50 years. So I'm just curious to know if wetting your line is still a necessary step. So in this video, I will be putting it to the test. I'm going to tie a knot while lubricating it and see at what pound it breaks. Then I will tie that same knot, but keep it dry, and again, see at what pound it breaks. I'm going to do this with two popular fishing knots, the double pitson and the Palomar knot, and I will do each test 3 different times and take the overall average for the best results.
now in order to test out wetting the knot, I do want to try it on both fluorocarbon and monofilament line. So I'm going to be testing, first of all, 20-pound fluorocarbon and then 20-pound mono. But then after that, I also kind of wanted to see, does different line diameters kind of make a difference as far as the overall strength? So I'm also going to be testing it on 16-pound fluorocarbon and 10-pound fluorocarbon, which are lines that I use a lot. Now, as far as wetting it goes, I'm going to be using my mouth because I feel like 99% of fishermen, they just simply use their spit to actually lubricate the knot. Okay, so over here, I'm simply going to be attaching this jig to the push-pull force gauge. And then over on this side, I'm actually going to be kind of tying like basically a friction knot. I'm gonna go around this post about 8 or 9 times, and then I'm gonna take the tag in and I'm gonna put it in this clamp. So basically by doing this, it makes sure that this line is not gonna break anywhere except for at the knot, and the knot is what we are testing. Now, if just for whatever reason it happens to break somewhere in the line, then I will not consider that to be like a test. I will completely scratch that. We're just trying to test out the knots. Now again, I'm starting out with a lubricated knot here, and I better put my glasses on, and let's go ahead and see where this breaks. This is 20-pound fluorocarbon, but we probably won't make it all the way to 20 pounds. Okay, that actually broke at 16.9. Also, let's go ahead and show you the 16.9 right there. And one of the biggest things that I have found out over the years with tying knots and doing, like I've done hundreds of tests on knots, is that you actually have quite a big variance when it comes to your knots. You know, the smallest little thing, you think that you tie a knot very consistently, but when you go to do a lot of these tests and you're actually measuring it, there is a big variance. So the first one was right about 17 pounds. I would say that that's a little below average. I would expect this to actually break a little bit more around 18 pounds, but that's why we're gonna do 3 different tests and take the overall average. Oh, and I forgot to show you, but you can see there that the knot broke on the hook. Sometimes you'll be left with a little bit of a part of the knot, and sometimes the knot just explodes off like it did right there. All right, test number 2. Let's go. Felt like that knot came together a little bit better. So I'm expecting this to be a little bit better, but I don't know, we'll just see. Yeah, this one's gonna, okay, so that's 18.2 on that last one. And you can see, this is what I'm talking about. Right here, you can see that it actually, those 3 lines right there are the tag-in lines. You can see how loose this knot is on there. So it actually broke just inside the knot there. 18.7. All right, after those 3 tests, we averaged just about 17.93 as far as the overall braking strength with lubricating the knot. So now I'm gonna do 3 tests while not lubricating the knot to see what happens. Okay, I definitely felt like that knot did not come together great. But you never really know. You'll just kind of find out when we do this. So let's zero out the scale again. Okay, so that was the first test, and it just broke at 18.3. I forgot to turn on my other camera, so I'm gonna keep you on real quick and show you, just so you know I'm not lying. 18.3. So far, that's not too much different. We gotta do 3 tests though, because there's gonna be variance. So let's go ahead and do some more tests. Wow, wow. Okay, that just busted at 18.6. 18.6, which is one of the best tests I've done so far. All right, this is the 3rd test with a dry knot. First ones have been honestly good, but let's see what this one comes up with. Okay, that one was substantially lower, 16.5. I mean, looking at the results so far of the first test that we did, they're almost identical. I had one kind of break in the upper 16s and the other 2 were in the 18s. So really interesting. So let's go ahead and we're gonna do the same thing with 20-pound fluorocarbon, but this time I wanna use a Palomar knot. And then we're gonna go from the Palomar knot and we're gonna start using monofilament because a lot of people still use mono. So let's try it. Let's try that. All right, this is the first test with a Palomar knot that has been lubed. Okay. That broke at 16.7. All right, test number 2 of Palomar knot. This is a lubricated Palomar. Okay, 16.4 on that one. Man. Test number 3 with a lubricated Palomar knot. 16.5. All right, so after doing those tests, which, let's make sure this broke at the knot. It definitely did. But after doing those tests, those were all lubed with the Palomar knot. So anyways, I had a little bit different results when I did my knot strength test, where the double piston and the Palomar were pretty even as far as how good of a knot they were. But in this particular test, it was substantially different. Now, the biggest difference in my test that I'm doing right now is I was using, I think, a different line at the time. And so with that being said, I don't know if that has made a difference in the outcome, but you can see there that the Palomar knot in general was not as strong as the double piston. It's actually why I switched to a double piston a number of years ago. But I do think the Palomar knot is still a good knot. But now we do have a consistent result. It's been breaking somewhere around 16.5. So now what I'm gonna do is tie the Palomar knot again, but I'm not going to use any spit, any lube. And we're gonna see how that works. All right, this is test number 1 with a dry Palomar knot. Our average for the lubed Palomar knots was 16.53. So let's see if there's a difference here in wetting the knot when it comes to Palomar. What the heck? All right. I don't know what to say exactly, but when I wet the knot, I averaged 16.53. I just did it not wet, dry, and it just broke at 19.5. Can you all see that? So that's really weird to me because that's a humongous percentage. Man, very interesting. But I gotta put that down. I would have expected if it was gonna be better, like something in the 17s, but 19? I don't know. That is beyond me. I don't know how that really makes sense, why it would have that outcome. But look, I'm just trying to do this the best I can. I'm trying to tie the best knots that I can and just kind of see what happens. This is dry knot number 2 with the Palomar, and see where it breaks. I really expected this to break. Okay, so interesting. 14.8 on that one, which is the lowest I've had when it comes to Palomar knots. 14.8. But the last one was 19.5. I'm telling you, I'm tying all these Palomars the exact same. At least the exact same in my mind. I feel like they're coming together the exact same. All right, moving on to the next test with a dry Palomar. What in the world, dude? 19.3. With a dry Palomar, I had 2 19-pound tests. The one where I lubed them were very consistent, right at 16.5 pretty much for all of them. Huge variance in this last one, but 2 really pretty hugely different results. So if I take the average though of those 2, it actually shows that you have an 8% better overall poundage by not wetting the knot. So anyways, I'm gonna move on to monofilament next. I'm interested to see if it's different, and then we'll step down to the other fluorocarbons.
Oh, and real quick, before we get into the tests, this video is brought to you by my apparel company, Fin Fishing. At Fin Fishing, I have one of the only USA-made sun shirts out there on the market. And we all know as anglers, we spend a lot of time in the sun, so it's important to protect your body from that sun. And right now, if you use the coupon code BOGOCAST50, you will actually get buy one, get one for 50% off. So I'm gonna leave some links down below in the description. Not only do I have sun shirts, but I also have different shorts, hats, and other items. Shopping at Fin Fishing is truly the best way to help support this channel, and I greatly appreciate it.
So this is the first test with mono on a lubricated double Pitson. Goodness. Golly, are you kidding me? I'm gonna break the jig. How's this not broke? Oh my gosh. Okay, well, that's 20-pound XL smooth monofilament. It just broke at 32.3 pounds. I'm kind of scared of it, if I'm gonna be honest. Golly, dude, why is this labeled at 20? Oh my. All right. Well, that is a first. This just, I thought it broke at 27.7, but I just broke the hook off of this jig. So that is not ideal, especially because I have no clue where that hook point went. I'm glad I'm wearing glasses. But look, 20-pound line, XL, I mean, that's 10 bucks for the Berkeley Trilene Extra Smooth casting. But that is way too much. I mean, that should be labeled at least 30 pound. I gotta find that hook point because I got kids, so give me a minute. Look at that. Luckily, I was able to find the hook point there, but just completely broke the hook and shut off at 27.7. So I got another jig. It's the exact same jig. But man, hopefully I don't break another one. This is crazy. I did not expect that line to be that strong. Now I know that it may kind of look good that a 20-pound line is breaking over 30 pounds, but honestly, I wish it was labeled properly. I wish it was labeled as a 30-pound test breaking strength, because I would rather buy something that kind of fits what I'm fishing and what I'm needing. I could probably fish, 14 or 15 pound mono, and I'm just guessing here, that might actually be 20 pound fluoro or 20 pound breaking strength. But the only way to do that is by testing it. As we're seeing here, this 20 pound is well above 30, but I'm gonna have to do 2 more tests to get a good average. Because although that one, it broke my hook at 27 pounds of force. So not sure what's gonna happen here. But I'm kind of scared that this is gonna fly up and hit me in the face. All right, let's test this out again. I'm actually gonna be holding up a plaque over this. I'm a little bit terrified that that hook point's gonna break off again and go flying into my face. So holding this plaque up, might as well put it up, second place or big bass in a tournament. There you go. Okay, 25.3 on that one. Well, I'm actually gonna have to redo that test. If you look at the knot here, you can actually see 4 different lines coming out of the knot itself. So for whatever reason, it broke just outside of the knot. It didn't break inside the knot. It broke outside. So see how there's 4? So anyways, I'm gonna have to redo that one. That one officially does not count. So let's try it again. Golly. My goodness, it's gonna break that hook. It's gonna break. Oh, geez, there it is. 31.2. Did it break the hook though? Nope, didn't break the hook, but it didn't break at the knot. All right, this mono is really giving me some fits. This is like the 5th test that I've done with a new issue every time. It actually broke over on the other side. Knot is still intact over here. So that is crazy. Well, what can I say? I've already chose this particular fishing line, and it is giving me a lot of issues. It's not necessarily giving me issues. The knot is holding up well. It's just it's very strong line. All right, so been having some issues with this particular mono. It is extremely strong. I didn't want to use a bare hook, but this was the strongest hook that I think that I have. It's probably one of the thickest wire hooks. This is a Hack Attack flipping hook. And so I didn't want to use a hook because this is mono and fluoro, and when they break, there's a lot of stretch, a lot of energy has to go somewhere, which means that this thing is going to go flying when it breaks. But in order to complete this test, I have to at least run the remaining 2 tests for this particular pound, for this line, at least on this particular hook, in order to try to get an accurate result, because this thing is it's just crazy how strong this line is. All right, so this is what I've done. To try to test out this line, because it is so strong, we have the hook right here, but then I actually attached kind of a safety line. So this hook is also attached to the push-pull force gauge itself. So hopefully when it decides to go flying, it's only gonna fly about a foot and not through the air or find someone's foot. So let's go ahead and test out where this breaks. I feel a lot more confident now that I'm not gonna get completely dinged up by a hook. which I guess it could still somehow happen. Oh my gosh. Ah! Okay. Well, perfect. My plan worked. That broke at 29.2. The hook stayed without going into my face. I just did that test again, and we got 29.8, I think. Yeah, so the overall average is 30 pound while wetting this knot with a double Pitson knot. So I'm actually going to do the same test now with a dry knot. So we're not gonna wet it at all, and we're gonna see what happens. Okay, that one actually was lighter. It broke at, well, let me see, make sure it broke at the knot. It did definitely break at the knot because there's no knot left. This is just my lasso knot. Is this on? Yes. So broke at 23.3. Okay, that actually broke at 20.5. $22.4. So interestingly enough, after doing the mono test with a double Pitson line, there is a 28% difference in wetting your knot and not wetting your knot, which is pretty substantial. I mean, if you look at the other tests that we did with fluorocarbon, you know, one of them came out that it was better to not wet the knot, but I am really interested in the difference between mono and fluoro, and if that is actually the reason why these were different. So when I go to test out the other fluoros, it's gonna be interesting to be able to compare what I'm seeing with the mono. Now, I do have one more mono test, which is the Palomar knot. I want to try tying those both wet and dry to see what our results are. Back to 30. Come on. Oh my gosh. Oh, okay. Dude, that was coming. 31.3. Yep, 29.4. All right, so now we are going to move over to doing dry tests with the Palomar and the mono. All right, let's make sure it broke at the knot, which it did. I don't even know where the knot is. Broke at 22.4. Ooh, again, 22.8. 23.8. Long story short, what we've kind of seen so far is that with the fluorocarbon, it really didn't make a difference whether you wet the knot or not. We actually saw that it was a little bit better with the Palomar knot to actually not wet the knot. But with the mono, it seems to be substantial, which if you think about it, this kind of makes sense because mono is a little bit more of the traditional fishing line that a lot of us kind of used way back in the day, and a lot of old timers definitely used it. And so as you can see, with both of these particular knots, there was about a 25 to 30% difference when wetting that knot and not. And so that is probably where this kind of, theory of, hey, you got to wet your knot kind of came from. But again, I'm not really sure if it applies to some of the newer, especially fluorocarbon lines. All right, now I'm going to start testing out fluorocarbon again. I'm gonna test out this 16-pound T7. T7 was the same brand that I tested out earlier. And then I'm gonna test out this 10-pound Seagar. I'm interested to see also if it makes a difference as far as what brand that I use. I kind of wish I had a bunch of different brands to be able to test this out, but we're at least gonna see right now with 16-pound fluorocarbon. So let's go ahead and start doing it. All right, so we just got done with all of the testing and definitely some pretty interesting results. I'm going to lay them here across the screen. Probably the biggest thing that I noticed is that when I did the Palomar test for each of the different pound tests, as you can see, each difference box has a negative number, negative 8.06, negative 1.19, negative 4.02. And basically that negative number means that it's actually better to not wet the knot in the tests that I did. You had a bigger overall number by not lubricating the knot. Now, with that being said, I believe that if you were to do this exact same test and just do a lot more of them, do 10, 15, 20, I think that that number would become really close to zero, meaning that there wasn't a big difference when it comes to a Palomar knot. Because if you look at even the 8.06 difference, which was the biggest difference that I had in lubricating, there was kind of a lot of variance in that test. I had a really high number at 19.5. I also had a really low number at 14.8. I would say also overall lubricating your knot probably gives you more of a consistent knot, but it doesn't necessarily give you a stronger knot. Now, with that being said, the other thing is mono. There was a big difference in my mono test versus the other fluorocarbons that I did. Fluorocarbons, there was very minute differences. Mono, it was huge. I mean, I had a 27% difference and a 24% difference. So if you use mono, 100% lubricate your knot. But when it comes to fluorocarbon, I don't necessarily know if you really need to after these tests. Now, these two knots that I did were the double Petson and the Palomar, and they are not necessarily the best knot that have ever been created. As a matter of fact, I did a whole test on knots to show exactly what the best knot out there is for fluorocarbon line, and I'm gonna leave that video linked right up here. I think if you enjoyed this video, you're gonna really enjoy this one. So hope you guys did enjoy it, and I will see you in the next one.